Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. Today, we're going over the all-time top VR games by genre as of January 2024. Now this will of course include all modern platforms like the PlayStation VR2, PCVR, and the Meta Quest. I'll also throw in some honorable mentions just to make sure we have more than one game in each category, and I might even mention a few upcoming games to look out for in the near future. Now there are of course links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead, but before we jump in, this video is brought to you by VR makers of prescription lens inserts for all of your favorite VR headsets. Quest 3 inserts are now available for purchase, and I'm extremely happy to announce that they've significantly dropped their pricing on this product. They magnetically connect for easy insertion and removal, so if you wear eyeglasses and struggle to fit them inside the VR headset, or you're concerned about scratching your lenses, go check out VR down in the description, and don't forget to use discount code Mateo311 for 10% off and to help support my channel. Okay guys, so as we dive into this list, I want to hear from you down in the comments what your favorite VR games are. If I happen to miss any great games or complete genres, please let me know so I can update the list better next time, or just jump into any titles I'm yet to experience. But for now, let's get started with Gran Turismo 7 taking the title of Best Driving Game. If you value things like graphics and realism, then this should be your go-to experience. It's also a truly massive title with a lengthy campaign, plenty of cars to unlock and customize, and a gameplay experience that's well suited for everyone from rookies all the way up to sim junkies or professional racers. I've never been a big fan of the racing genre, but this title instantly sucked me in, and it's a truly immersive and beautiful racing experience. Now, honorable mentions include Dirt Rally 2, which will take you off the track and into some off-roading experiences, driving through all weather conditions. It's definitely an older title, but still truly loved in the racing community, just like Assetto Corsa. This racing sim has tons of mods out there to keep it exciting. Now, as I already admitted, I'm not a big racing sim fan, and I barely experienced these two honorable mentions, but I made sure to include them on my list because my community constantly recommends them. But let's move on to a genre I know a bit better, and that's puzzle games. Red Matter 2 includes stunning graphics, a compelling storyline, truly challenging puzzles, and an overall creepy atmosphere that keeps you wondering what's gonna happen next. Now again, I'm not the biggest fan of the puzzle genre, but I felt completely compelled to play this title from beginning to end when it originally released back on the Quest, and I jumped back in to re-experience this game for the PlayStation VR2 release. Now even if you're not the biggest fan of the puzzle genre like myself, don't sleep on Red Matter 2, it's an absolutely fantastic game. Now an honorable mention includes the story-driven time-traveling experience Wanderer. Once again, we have some excellent graphics and some truly unique environments to explore. Your journey will take you everywhere from an alternate version of the moon landing, all the way back to ancient civilizations. Now to make things even better, this game is getting a new release with some major updates. Wanderer Fragments of Fate will eventually make its way onto the Quest and PlayStation VR2, plus there'll be a slew of new improvements and added content. Now if you want your puzzle experiences to be a bit more chill, I recommend some escape rooms, and the clear winner here is the I Expect You to Die series. This series somehow manages to just keep getting better and better. The quirky fun and challenging puzzles continues, but somehow the production value and overall experience just gets better and better with each new title. You'd expect by this point the series is starting to feel bland and old, but the magic of these quirky escape rooms has not diminished just yet. Now for honorable mentions, we have the Room VR, A Dark Matter. If I Expect You to Die is a bit too quirky and you want a more mature theme, well then the Room should be right up your alley. It takes place in London in 1908, and you'll be exploring a series of cryptic locations as you're working to find a missing archaeologist. Unfortunately for you, you'll make an otherworldly discovery, which blurs the lines between reality and illusion. But if you have no interest in puzzle games, let's move on to the platformer genre. Moss Book 1 and 2 is an absolutely magical adventure. It manages to elicit a surprising amount of emotions, as it's almost impossible to not get attached to the mouse protagonist Quill. The environments are also amazingly done, plus the game has some great combat and challenging puzzles. Now I never thought I'd like this game, let alone fall in love with it. And the same goes for today's honorable mention, Astrobot Rescue Mission. Now I said I'd only be including modern VR platforms, and Astrobot's only on the PlayStation VR1, which is an absolute sin. It's easily one of the best VR platformers ever made, and we better get a sequel on the PlayStation VR2 as soon as possible. Now looking forward, we have a new platformer releasing called Max Mustard. This is from the same developers that gave us Richie's Plank experience, and I'm truly excited to see if Max can live up to the legacy left behind by Moss and Astrobot. Well, we'll know soon enough when this game releases in March. Now moving into the horror genre, I absolutely love the co-op experience that Inverse had to offer. Overall, it's very similar to Dead by Daylight, with 4v1 asymmetrical gameplay, where one player takes the role of a monstrous creature, and everyone else is a scientist who's running for their life. Now they did twist up that classic formula a bit, as once the scientists get enough generators up and running, they'll unlock some weapons and have the opportunity to fight back. VR also makes this overall experience that much better, because as the monster you get to physically bash down walls, climb different surfaces, and then jump down on an unexpected enemy. The overall gameplay loop is fantastic, and I hope they continue to pump out some new updates. Now another co-op horror experience that we absolutely have to mention is Phasmophobia. This 4-person ghost hunting experience is equally terrifying and absolutely hilarious. Listening to your friends squeal out loud, then watching them run away never gets old, just like the jump scares that'll make you wish you were wearing a diaper. This game has an absolute ton of replayability, and even if you're a coward, I highly recommend you try it at least once. Now last up in the genres that aren't truly my favorite, we have the stealth-based games and Assassin's Creed Nexus. Luckily for me, the title doesn't force you to be that stealthy, and I can make up for my rather noisiness with my excellent combat skills. Stealth fan or not, there's still plenty to enjoy in this title. The time-traveling storyline is fun even if you're not an Assassin's Creed fan. You get to execute some amazing parkour skills and stealth kills, and it's a mighty fine looking title on the Quest platform. So it doesn't matter if you're an Assassin's Creed fan or not, I recommend you go check out this game. Now the honorable mention for the stealth genre is definitely Vampire the Masquerade Justice. Your vampiric nature makes lurking in the shadows just so much cooler, plus you'll unlock an array of special abilities that makes you feel like a complete badass and gives you access to some truly brutal skills. So if you equally enjoy stealth and blood and guts, go check out Vampire the Masquerade Justice. Now moving into the roguelike genre, my personal favorite on the PSVR2 is Synapse. Jumping into that trippy Inception style world and gaining more and more telekinetic powers just feels so good. Graphically, this title's a stunner. The action and overall gameplay mechanics keep me pumped up, and I truly love this game for what it was, but ultimately it was kind of forgettable. The really cool atmosphere and storyline never really goes anywhere, and just like most roguelites, the game does get quite repetitive. Now for people on the Quest platform, I have a surprise roguelite that I'm sure you didn't think of. The Uncharted Rifts in Asgard's Wrath 2 could have been its own standout roguelite title. Even if that massive single player campaign wasn't attached to this title, the Uncharted Rifts alone would have been the best roguelite of 2023. Seriously guys, it's that damn good, because not only does it have top tier melee, but it also changes things up with a few standout features. For starters, there's an asynchronous multiplayer mode. You'll decide if you want to play for the side of order or chaos, and this will have you showing up in other people's games as either an ally or foe. It's an excellent mechanic that just adds so much. There's also plenty of other cool features like daily rewards that'll give you a reason to keep coming back to this game. Honestly, I'm extremely impressed with the roguelite feature that they added to their game that they really didn't have to do. Now when it comes to shooters, we have a lot to cover, so let's start with the co-op ones. After the Fall is basically VR's Left 4 Dead, except the zombies have more of a Frozen theme to them, and there's a large emphasis on grinding out new cosmetics and weapon upgrades. The game's been out for over 2 years now, and you can still find daily active players, but it is on more of a decline, so if you're gonna pick this one up, just make sure you have friends who are willing to play with you. Now a newer co-op shooter that's definitely worth checking out is Arizona Sunshine 2. This time, the zombies are a bit more generic, and the co-op is limited to 2 players instead of 4, but you do get an awesome companion dog named Buddy, an array of melee weapons, and an overall storyline. Now for those of you looking for competition, let's move into the PvP shooters. This usually comes down to what style of game do you want. If you want something a bit more classic like Counter-Strike, you have to check out Pavlov. Pavlov has that same type of awesome search and destroy action, plus there's a huge array of mods and different game types. Now if you like the strategy that comes from games like Rainbow Six Siege, well then VR has Breachers. You'll gear up with an array of different tools designed to either defend a position or help clear it out of enemies. This is a much more strategic shooter where you'll have to rely on your team. And speaking of relying on your team, VR's #1 Battle Royale title is Population 1. By now, I'm sure you guys know the drill. You'll drop into the map, find some great loot, take out the enemies, and hopefully be the last team standing. And finally on our shooter list, we have the extraction style game Ghost of Tabor. While friends could definitely help here, it's usually easier to shoot first and ask questions later. It's an absolutely brutal world out there, and the best way to protect yourself is by hoarding more and more gear. So get in, grab some loot, take down anyone who gives you trouble, and hopefully you'll safely extract with some brand new gear. Now a genre I forgot to include last time is the Arena Fighter, and obviously Blade and Sorcery is absolutely fantastic. This physics-based fighting sim not only gives you a huge array of weapons to choose from, but also some truly badass magical abilities. Now the game is slowly becoming much more than just an arena fighter, but as of right now that's still mainly what it is, And if you do get bored of that, the mod community has been making some great stuff for this game. Now, a brand new arena fighter that I absolutely have to mention is Underdogs. Once again, you're using physics to take down your enemies, but this time you're a multi-ton gorilla-style mech, and you get to bash down an array of other robotic creatures. The combat feels absolutely fantastic, and this game is both dripping with style and has a fantastic soundtrack. Now, if you're looking for a tabletop game, we have Demeo Battles. The beloved tabletop turn-based combat of Demeo has now been made into a competitive game. You'll go ahead and select your hero and build up an army, and then go toe-to-toe in 1v1 or 2v2 battles. Unlike the original Demeo, where a session usually lasts over 2 hours, matches in Demeo Battles are usually 15 minutes or less. It's extremely strategic with just enough RNG to keep things exciting, and there's a huge amount of unlockables to keep you coming back to this game. Now, another competitive tabletop game that I highly recommend is Cards and Tankards. This trading card title is highly addictive with a pretty insane amount of strategy to go along. There's also a very strong social aspect where you could freely navigate through different taverns, spectate some ongoing games, or just make some new friends and compare your decks. I was never into trading card games until I played Cards and Tankards, and then I found myself playing the game every night for about 2 months straight. Now, if you're looking for a co-op RPG, I highly recommend Dungeons of Eternity. Now, overall, the game's a bit more of a dungeon crawler rather than an RPG, but you will be leveling up and unlocking some cool new skills and features. Plus, there's plenty of new weapons, armor, and consumables to find along the way. Now, I know leveling and equipment is part of the hook for most people, but the true standout of this game is its combat mechanics. Yes, it leans more towards the arcadey dungeon crawler, but the combat is just so much fun. You'll feel unstoppable as you're constantly throwing a never-ending stream of weapons, and then some massive creatures will show up and one-shot you. Overall, it's a highly addictive game that'll have you coming back time and time again. Now, I also gotta give some love to the co-op RPG Carnage Chronicles. This is a much older PCVR title, and it's very similar to Dungeons of Eternity, but it offers up better graphics and a much more robust storyline. But let's switch over to the action horror genre, where Resident Evil absolutely rules. For the PlayStation VR2 owners, you not only have Resident Evil Village, but also the Resident Evil 4 remake. Questers will unfortunately have to settle for the much older ported version of Resident Evil 4, but regardless of which version you're playing, they're all pretty fantastic. Now, for PC players, you're kind of out of luck here, unless you go the modding route, and then you could finally experience the Resident Evil games in VR. It just isn't perfect. Now, we're closing in on the end of today's video, but I also wanted to include an action-adventure category and fill it with Horizon Call of the Mountain. When I think about it, it feels like the overall genre is lacking in VR, but Horizon is definitely a fantastic journey on the PlayStation VR2, and Defector also delivers for PCVR players. You get to do things like jump out of a plane, brutally interrogate someone for information, and plenty of other spy-themed activities. Now, as we move into single-player story-driven shooters, I'm sure you guys know exactly what's coming up, and that's Half-Life Alyx. It doesn't matter what category you put this game in, it's easily one of the best VR games out there. Stunning graphics, some excellent physics-based mechanics, a deep storyline set in a beloved IP, and easily some of the most memorable moments I've ever experienced in VR. Between Jeff and a hotel full of headcrabs, I still have semi-nightmares about this game. Now, in the honorable mention category, we have a game that was inspired by the Half-Life series, and that's Vertigo 2. This is an absolutely fantastic shooter with tons of variety. You really never know what to expect from this title, and it almost feels like you're trapped in an episode of Rick and Morty. There's some absolutely amazing enemies and weapons, plus you get to hang out with some robotic commies and open up portals to different dimensions. If you haven't tried this game, I absolutely recommend you put it on your wish list. And we've now made it to my absolute favorite genre, the RPG, and Asgard's Wrath 2. Asgard's Wrath 2 gives me everything I'm looking for from a VR game. The combat mechanics feel absolutely fantastic. The game was definitely inspired by God of War, and it has that same combination of amazing cutscenes, brutal and highly tactical combat, a nice variety of puzzles, a reason to look around every corner, and plenty of instant gratification as you're constantly opening up chests and getting new loot. Honestly, I could go on and on about this game for over an hour. Even after tens of hours of gameplay, I'm expecting it to get stale or really repetitive, but that's just not the case. The only thing that's been stopping me from playing Asgard's Wrath 2 all day long is the fact that I get too tired. I know, I'm old. Now, I couldn't have a list of VR RPGs without mentioning Skyrim, as it's definitely a one-of-a-kind experience, but the VR port is less than fantastic, so be prepared to mod the crap out of this game. Isn't that what Skyrim's all about anyway? Now, there's definitely some exciting games on the way for 2024, so I'll leave you with one more title which may be an RPG or more of an action title. Regardless, Behemoth is looking pretty good. Now, that right there was today's video, and if I missed any genres or titles you highly recommend, let me know what they are down in the comments right now.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe for my daddy.
Good job.
Bye.